Aging and Learning, Regrets versus Hope by Christina Thompson of Edgecliff, 2027. Narrated by Rowena Robinson. When I was a teenager, I worked for a while in a health fund office. On the wall at the entrance to the ladies' toilet was a Beck's dispensing device. Many of my fellow workers would resort to insertion of a coin and extraction of the so-called headache reliever multiple times a day. Years later, it was found that these little helpers had killed a goodly proportion of the imbibers, mostly through irreparable damage to their kidneys. Who knows how many of our progressive inventions, drugs, and practices have led to similar population control measures? In my limited knowledge, I can think of similar deadly ideas, thought to be harmless or beneficial through the ages: clerical celibacy, lead-based makeup, opium-derived substances, tobacco products. Think child abuse, Queen Elizabeth I, mad but creative poets, several generations of smokers. My parents were the post-World War I baby boomers, born as the nations were yet again carved up by the victors. And if they survived the Spanish flu, they had to face the worldwide depression of the 30s. As with the laudanum takers of the century before, tobacco products were lauded for their calming effect on lives under stress. And then this next generation had to run the gauntlet of another world war, which bred a new generation of cigarette smokers. The tobacco industry became huge, governments became beholden to the tax revenue, and no serious thought was given to removing the causes of stress, such as warfare, hunger, and trauma. Soldiers and war-connected workers were often given free cigarettes to keep them quiet, just as armies of the past were given rum. The survivors of the wars emerged as tobacco smokers, indeed encouraged in the practice by ignorant health experts, even more ignorant government revenue officers, and totally culpable manufacturers of the bane of our present lives. Mum, an ex-munitions worker and artist, gave it up 5 years after the war when she was expecting twins. Dad, as the stressed-out ex-soldier and then a lawyer and sole breadwinner, kept it up until the late 1960s, when a heart attack scared him into listening to the now more enlightened doctors. What a fight we are having, in society to try to stem the ongoing health damage and costs of such addiction. I look back a little smugly, shielded by knowledge gained from a good education, emboldened by wisdom due to lucky survival through the decades to my 70s. But then I think of how I too was misled by best practice. Was I too guilty? Encouraged to smack my children when they were in danger, say crossing the road without looking, reaching into a fire, poking a fork into a PowerPoint, in the belief that a short, sharp scare would be the best lesson learned? What other behaviors would I have adopted at some stage of my life that proved detrimental in the end? What about the belief that you would avoid problems with alcohol in youth? What about the ingrained belief in the virtues of avoiding sexual encounters until marriage and a life lived happily ever after? Old ways of doing, believed at the time of being the best ways. Humanity, of course, is constantly evolving, and a main cause of this seems to be learning through mistakes as much as scientific advances. But we don't learn very well. How widespread is rejection of knowledge? How widespread is willful dismissal of historical mistakes? Evolution seems to be very unequal and totally unreliable. As I get older, able to think and plan more carefully and grow in patience and tolerance and understanding, I assume everybody else is going through the same process and the world is getting to be a better place for everyone. But no, it isn't. With increasing knowledge comes increasing power and selfishness, and the exploitation of the powerless continues apace. Aging is of societies as well as individuals, and a belief in rightness, due to endurance over time, is maintained at our peril. Aging brings change, and a demand on us not only to accept change, but to guide it in ways that will benefit mankind. Perhaps the key lessons I've learned through aging are that change will happen, knowledge will increase, benefits will come. But I have also learned that benefits are not inevitable, that dangers persist, and that it's a murky swamp we wade through to find the best path for all concerned. Constant vigilance is required, and a willingness to seek out and listen to those who advocate compassion, understanding, and generosity, as well as those who discover new ways of doing stuff. Tech generations beware. It's not what you discover, but how it is implemented that is crucial for the survival of civilization. The end.